From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Roger Mudd substituting for vacationing Walter Cronkite. And in Washington, Hal Walker, Neil Strasser, Robert Pierpoint, Nelson Benton, Bernard Kalb, Ed Rabel in Choctaw County, Mississippi, Tony Sargent in Felton, Georgia, and John Lawrence in Basildon, England.
Good evening. The economic news tonight contains few bright spots. Living costs have spurted ahead by the greatest rate in a year. The index in August jumped 1.3% to the level that the goods and services $10 bought in 1967 now cost $15.02. Hal Walker reports.
Groceries, after a drop in July, were back up last month, rising 1.5% overall. Meat cost more, especially beef, and eggs were among the price gainers. Poultry should have gone down this time of year. Instead, it went up. Almost everything cost more. Only fresh vegetables, dairy products, and fish declined. Clothing and shoes hit the pocketbook harder in August, rising 2.2%. The price of owning a home went up for the month, sparked by an increase in mortgage interest costs. And it cost more to get sick. Medical care expenses rose by 1.6%. There was some good news on the fuel front. With large reserves on hand, some service stations fought price wars last month, driving gasoline down an average of 0.8%. Although American workers averaged $11.10 a week more than a year ago, after adjusting for the increase in the cost of living, the government reported that real spendable earnings for the month were down almost 1% to the lowest level since December of 1970. On Capitol Hill, members of the Joint Economic Committee were critical.
Unfortunately, it appears that this is the kind of an increase that we're going to suffer from for some months to come because, of course, we've had a very sharp and continuous increase in the wholesale price index, and wholesale price increases of today are the consumer price increases of next month and next year.
And Senator Hubert Humphrey attacked administration economist Alan Greenspan for his remarks that brokers were hardest hit by inflation and the gloomy economic picture.
Let me just say that what's wrong with the country is not what's happened to the brokers, but how many people are going broke. That's what's really wrong. And Mr. Greenspan didn't address himself to that. There is a kind of social and economic insensitivity that's revealed in Mr. Greenspan's statement that I think tells you a great deal of why we're not being able to control inflation and why we're not being able to do something about recession. This isn't even old-time religion in economics. This is just old-time sin.
White House economists have conceded a period of continued high inflation, and last month's figures have borne out those predictions. Hal Walker, CBS News, Washington.
There were more Washington meetings on the economy today and more reaction to the Wall Street broker comment by Greenspan. Neil Strasser reports.
The civil rights and trade union leaders who heard Greenspan yesterday struck back at a news conference called to sum up the results of the HEW mini-summit.
Inflation has hurt the poor most, and social policy should help them the most. Social policy should not make the poor and those who are not well off today any less well off than they are now.
At a separate news conference, HEW Secretary Caspar Weinberger also took issue with Greenspan.
Do you share his belief? Aren't your constituents hurt much more than stockbrokers by inflation?
I've found very little support for the Stockbrokers Relief Committee since Mr. Greenspan made his remark, and I would be surprised if I encounter any more.
Greenspan himself appeared at another mini-summit of financial leaders, including stockbrokers, but confined his remarks to a general and sober view of the economy.
You do come out with an economic outlook which is scarcely one that can be described as buoyant. On the contrary, it looks poor. The economy is clearly soft and is softening.
Federal Reserve Board Chairman Arthur Burns spoke of a sluggish economy, but opposed any substantial easing of tight money policies. He promised no intensification, however, of monetary restraints.
While the Federal Reserve must persevere in the struggle against inflation, we shall also see to it that the supply of money and credit continues to expand. There will be no credit crunch in our country.
The bankers and brokers generally agreed upon a need for budget balancing and tax incentives for investment, but showed no great enthusiasm for one suggestion to enlist consumers more directly in the inflation fight by getting them to grow victory gardens. Neil Strasser, CBS News, Washington.
The Agriculture Department proposed today a maximum 13% increase in the price paid by dairies for milk they intend to bottle. That could mean a retail price increase of 2 cents a quart. The department will hold a hearing on its proposal October 8th. Department price policies affect about 60% of the dairy industry. To help fight inflation, President Ford told the Congress today he is delaying spending $20 billion, which had been earmarked for such projects as waste treatment plants and highways. The president said he is planning further spending postponements. Today's news about higher living costs produced mixed results on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrials dropped more than 3 points. Volume on the New York Stock Exchange was 16 million shares. The average price per share gained 7 cents on both the New York and American exchanges.
Recognize buckwheat? This hardy grain helped feed a growing nation. Now it's scarce. This is buckwheat, stone ground. And you can still get it right here in buckwheat cereal. Flakes with a snap of maple flavor. High nutrition, of course. But the taste goes way back. Think of old-time buckwheat cakes and maple syrup. That's what prompted buckwheat's flavor. One of the true old-fashioned flavors left to enjoy.
The Jaguar XJ is neither all performance nor all luxury. During its design and development, Jaguar gave no absolute veto power to either stylist or engineer. For the Jaguar is a complete motor car, one that performs its function as a road car with agility and stamina, yet offers its owners those elusive qualities of grace, dignity, and exclusivity.
President Ford, for the first time since he took office 6 weeks ago, met at the White House today with Soviet Foreign Minister Gromyko. Also there were Soviet Ambassador Dobrynin and Secretary of State Kissinger. The meeting was long, an unexpected 2.5 hours. Robert Pierpoint reports.
Pleased White House aides said the meeting was cordial in tone, provided a useful exchange of views on a wide range of topics. Among other things, they discussed the long-hoped-for ban on offensive nuclear weapons, the reduction of troops in Europe by both East and West, and the troubled Middle East. They also talked about the trade agreement the Soviets want so badly, but had rejected because of the so-called Jackson Amendment, which would force them to ease their treatment of Soviet minorities. But today, Senator Jackson conferred with President Ford before the Gromyko-Dobrynin meeting, then indicated the Soviets have now accepted the substance of his amendment.
We have made headway when they get them to turn 180 degrees. We're in virtual agreement now on the whole issue of harassment, increase in numbers, and even if the progress is just that much, if we've helped to save one single human life, I feel better about it.
The remaining difference between Jackson and the Ford administration is whether the Congress or the President should have the right to cancel the trade agreement if the Soviets do not live up to their side of the deal. And Jackson hinted that even that difference could be resolved in the next few days. Robert Pierpoint, CBS News, at the White House.
The White House announced today that the president will make a one-day stop in South Korea November 22nd on the way home from his already scheduled 3-day trip to Japan. Mr. Ford today named NBC News correspondent Ron Nessen to be his new White House press secretary. Bob Schieffer reports.
The president came to the press room to give Nessen a personal send-off, just as he did on the first day of his administration when he named Gerald Terhorst as his first press secretary.
I'll turn the job over to Ron. He has my full backing and support, and I think I'm very lucky to have somebody like him handling the job.
You're not going to leave me out here all alone, are you?
You better get used to it. No, I'm going to stand with you.
All right. Well, I did want to say a couple of things. I hope the White House press corps is ready for another Ron. I am a Ron, but not a Ziegler, I can tell you that. I do want to say a couple of things. One is that I will never knowingly lie to the White House press corps. I will never knowingly mislead the White House press corps. And I think if I ever do, you would be justified in questioning my continued usefulness in this job.
In 1971, Nissen was under consideration for a post in the Food and Drug Administration, but the Nixon White House vetoed him on political grounds. Today, he described himself as apolitical and said he hadn't voted since 1960 when he cast a ballot for John Kennedy. Bob Schieffer, CBS News, the White House.
In other action today, President Ford put new limits on the access White House officials can have to tax returns of individuals. Mr. Ford said the Internal Revenue Service may not disclose anyone's return unless he asks for it in writing and names the White House aide to whom it should be given. The executive order is an obvious outgrowth of Watergate. And it's now been confirmed that former President Nixon will enter Memorial Hospital in Long Beach, California on Monday for treatment of phlebitis.
For your big tournament?
No, I can't eat, dear. No, really, can't eat a thing. I wish I could, dear, but I just...
It's a big porterhouse steak.
Oh, the tourney's up.
I know it's gorgeous.
I got the turn. I'm a nervous wreck.
It's only a dart game.
I know it's only a dart game.
Kids love Chef Boyardee ravioli.
What is for, aren't they, Jim? He knows.
But the chef sells so many of these tasty little meat pies, something tells us kids aren't the only ones eating them.
Eat your darts. It's your ravioli.
In the beginning was the percolator, but perking boils coffee. So Norelco brought forth the electric drip filter coffee maker, destined to create coffee better than perked. Coffee never boiled, made by Norelco's own method of drip filtering to bring out only the best in the bean and leave the bitterness behind. The Norelco drip filter coffee maker. It doesn't know how to make a bad cup of coffee.
The Environmental Protection Agency said today American motorists will burn less gasoline in their new cars. And the EPA also put out its new scorecard for the gas mileage of U.S. and foreign-made cars. Nelson Benton reports from Washington.
The government says anti-pollution improvements are helping the fuel economy of 1975 model automobiles.
We now estimate that the fuel economy gain attributable solely to changes in engine and emission control system will be 13.5%.
The Environmental Protection Administration found Datsun's B210 model the mileage derby winner. Here's how some of the most popular cars tested for highway driving on EPA's dynamometer, a sort of automobile treadmill. The top 10 on the complete list were all foreign cars, the Datsun, several Volkswagen models, a couple of Toyotas, and an Audi. American small cars followed in the next grouping. The top American-built cars were AMC, Chevrolet, and Pontiac subcompacts. For their entire fleet, American Motors averaged the best mileage, Chrysler was next, General Motors was third, Ford was last. The cars getting the worst mileage were a variety of large, powerful American models and station wagons. Industry spokesmen in Detroit complain about the stationary dynamometer test, saying a road track would reflect performance more accurately. EPA is providing government labels so that consumers can note test results on each model in the showroom. Ford and General Motors will use them. American Motors and Chrysler will not. Nelson Benton, CBS News, Washington.
In Washington today, policewoman Gail Cobb was killed during a bank robbery. The FBI said she was the first woman police officer to be killed in the line of duty. More on the story from Bernard Kalb.
A few blocks from the White House, the police massed forces to track down one of two suspects fleeing from a police interrogation near a local bank. The first suspect had already been apprehended, but not before he had pulled his gun and fired.
A citizen notified the officer who was standing across L Street about this subject's actions. The officer went down the ramp, confronted the subject at the entrance to the parking garage, and at that time he shot her. We know that she was shot in the chest. She has a bullet wound in her wrist. She was removed to GW Hospital. She died at 11:25.
The policewoman was identified as Gail Cobb, 24 years old, slain, the police said, before she was able to draw her service revolver. She had joined the police force last October. Both her parents are involved in police work. Holding Officer Cobb's young son, her sister talked about the slain policewoman.
Gail really wanted to do it. Gail would do it because she was very determined. So if she would set her goals and she would achieve them.
First reaction from a woman on the police force.
I certainly believe it would make us think a little bit more, be cautious, though we know the profession we're in. It's the same as the men. We're going to have to come into situations like this. It's dangerous. It's too bad it happened, but all I can say, it probably won't be the first time.
Bernard Cowd, CBS News, Washington.
Last September, Timothy Nunley joined the Navy, but soon became ill. He went to sick call many times during those first months, complaining of weight loss, blurred vision, lack of appetite, and a growth on the abdomen. According to Nunley's mother, the Navy told him his illness was imaginary. In April, the Navy conceded its doctors had failed to diagnose cancer. And today, Timothy Nunley died of it at the age of 19.
Here's a scientific fact. When you're young, your eyes produce about this much soothing moisture every day. But by age 40, your eyes may produce about half as much. So occasionally may strain and hurt more. Now there's Clear Eyes for eyes over 40. Clear Eyes has a special moisturizing formula with methyl cellulose. Helps relieve dryness, remove redness, soothe irritation. Clear Eyes for eyes over 40. Use as directed.
How do I look?
Oh, great. Oh, pretty. Here, carry this. Oh.
Betty Crocker ready-to-spread frosting is just what it says. Ready. It's all prepared, creamy and smooth. It even spreads easier than homemade buttercream frosting. In just minutes, you can have a beautifully frosted cake without being ready to make frosting. Betty Crocker ready-to-spread frosting. It's ready when you are and when you aren't.
At a time when most people in the country are struggling with rising food prices, the poverty-stricken in one Mississippi county are struggling just to get food. Ed Rabel reports.
More than 40% of the 8,400 people who live in rural Choctaw County, Mississippi, are poor. Spiraling food costs have hit them hardest. Almost 1,500 are eligible for federal food stamps. But this April, after only 10 months of operation, the county terminated its food stamp program, making Choctaw one of 4 counties in the nation where the poor receive no stamps at all. The cutoff in this county has caused widespread suffering. As her children prepared to go to school this morning, Ernestine Smith was busy in the kitchen fixing a pan of biscuits, the same kind of fare this family has eaten each morning for weeks. Mrs. Smith was abandoned by her husband. All she has for total income is a $100 monthly welfare check and $330 from her teacher's aid job. If she could buy food stamps, she would only have to spend $100 of her income to buy $256 worth of stamps. The absence of food stamps has caused many families to eat only 2 meals a day, usually consisting of a meatless diet of tea, okra, and syrup. Babies reportedly are bottle-fed sugared water instead of milk. Parents are developing deep guilt feelings because they are unable to provide their families with nutritious meals. When was the last time you had meat?
I reckon Sunday we had a meatloaf. We hadn't had any more since last Sunday. And I don't know when we'll have any because I'm not going to have any money this weekend to buy anything with. We just don't have anything to buy it with.
Choctaw County officials say their budget has no funds to pay for the county's share of the cost of administering the food stamp program, about $14,000 a year. But a New York-based anti-hunger organization called Food Research and Action Center has filed a suit to get the program reinstated.
It would make the difference between hunger and malnutrition on the one hand and a minimally adequate diet on the other hand. It means the difference between between survival and not survival.
Even when the poor people of Choctaw County could get food stamps, their lives were made not much better. Now, with no stamps at all, it's hard to imagine how their lives could get much worse. Ed Rabel, CBS News, Choctaw County, Mississippi.
An old enemy of cattlemen and dairy farmers is plaguing some herds in Georgia and causing worry in neighboring states. Tony Sargent went to one of the affected areas.
Some of these cattle have tuberculosis. Because federal officials fear TB might spread to other herds throughout the southeast, they're testing cattle in Georgia and surrounding states. On each neck swollen with tuberculosis, officials brand a T. So far, they've found over 250 diseased animals in 23 Georgia herds. Most are high-priced breeding stock, like Charles Sankey's herd of 25, worth far more than the $400 a head indemnity the government provides for each cow that must be killed.
I'll probably just get rid of all of these and start over. I bought these from a certified TB-free herd, and I don't know who certified it, but I'm probably going to find out before too long.
Officials say this TB outbreak began at least 2 years ago, but claim it's been tough to spot because breeding cattle seldom go to slaughterhouses where routine government inspection would reveal it.
This is a disease that's very easy to detect at slaughter, and this meat would be condemned and not allowed for human consumption.
Doctor, would you say flatly there is no chance any human being could get TB from this?
Well, of course, I couldn't say there's no chance. There's always some possibility. I would say the chance is very, very remote.
Meat from cattle in the early stages of infection can be processed at high temperature, which kills TB bacteria. After government approval, it may be sold. The main concern among officials is the outside chance of tuberculosis spreading to dairy herds, drastically reducing milk supplies. Tony Sargent, CBS News, Felton, Georgia.
The Customs Service said today its men made what's believed to be the biggest marijuana haul ever. Nearly 19 tons of pot were seized near Nogales, Arizona, and was being smuggled in from Mexico. The marijuana would have brought in nearly $11 million in street sales. 4 persons were arrested.
Hi. You know, my trips into space convinced me of one thing: the value of expert planning. Let's face it, you and I can't be experts in everything. That includes planning our family's financial security. Businessman, doctor, or astronaut, we all need expert guidance. Look, a man builds up a tidy sum: his home, savings, investments, life insurance. But we're not really qualified to handle it. Well, fortunately, there is someone who can help. The well-trained life insurance representative. Especially one who is experienced in related areas, so he can tie in your life insurance with your entire financial plan. Don't try to plan your future alone. If you don't know a qualified insurance man, I recommend that you see a mutual benefit representative. Profit by his experience. I did.
Mutual benefit. You take care of today, we'll take care of tomorrow.
John Lawrence reports tonight on the revival of an ancient English pastime that brings to mind some words written nearly 4 centuries ago. England is the paradise of women, the purgatory of men, and the hell of horses.
After more than 500 years, the tournament fields of England and Europe are resounding again with the thunder of charging horses, the clash of steel on steel, and the shouts of excited spectators as bold warriors engage in armed combat. Well, almost. Those giant Shire horses of the 14th century have been replaced by ordinary hunters, which carry less weight but go faster. Linked chainmail, which used to protect against the slash of sword, has given way to knitted string, spray-painted silver. The helmets are made of fiberglass, heavily padded with foam rubber. The swords are not of steel, but a lightweight aluminum alloy. The lances, once carved from heavy wood, are now fashioned from bamboo and blunted at the ends. And the knights themselves, far from being professional cavalry fighters, are movie stuntmen, maybe the best in Britain, but not exactly knights. They call themselves the Company of Knights, and they try to present as realistic a display of a medieval jousting tournament as possible, without hurting themselves too often. The music is authentic enough as the trio entertains the gathering crowd, although some spectators would rather shout soccer slogans. This modern-day tournament begins with the entrance of the Knight Marshal, who is both ringmaster and referee, as he escorts the Queen of Light and Beauty, a local lass who has just won a beauty contest. 5 knights ride out to represent the king, bearing such names as Michael of Forfar, Terence of Eastcote, Nicholas of Grimsdyke, and Lawrence of Rockwell, those being their real first names. They are opposed by 5 knights of the Wicked Baron, But despite efforts to play off the good knights against the bad knights, the crowd appears to applaud and boo both sides with equal enthusiasm.
My Lady Queen, have I your permission to read the proclamation of the Lords of Combat? You are too kind.
The Knight Marshal reads the ancient rules of combat and appeals to the men to tax me not with unchivalrous behavior.
I now declare the tournament open.
The jousting begins. Each tilt takes only a few seconds, and in the old days, the idea was to knock the other knight off his horse. In this modern revival, the falls are planned. A thick bed of peat has been laid down to cushion the landings, but falls can hurt.
A strike to the balanced knight. Lawrence of Rockwell, are you able to continue combat?
Jousting against a much larger man, Terry Richards, a former soldier turned stuntman, catches the full force of the lance, falls off his horse, and hits the hard ground, breaking his left arm.
We'll let you know exactly what's happened later in the show.
Two of the combatants square off for a sword fight. This action is the most carefully rehearsed because, as the stuntmen knights explain, they'd end up killing each other if they didn't practice. To the audience, it all seems real enough.
If you were alive in the 13th or 14th century, do you think you'd be doing the same?
I think so, yes. I really do. I think I'm in the wrong century now. I would have loved to be a knight then. It's just my cup of tea.
6 months after its organization, the Company of Knights is planning to bring its performance to the United States next year, and with it, some of the pageantry of medieval England. John Lawrence, CBS News, Basildon.
That's the news this Friday night. I'm Roger Mudd, CBS News. Good night.
Quote, one of the most significant designs from a U.S. car maker since the introduction of the Model T. That's what the engineering editor of Road and Track said about the new car coming from Ford. The new 1975 Ford Granada. Solid, about the size and weight of the Mercedes-Benz 280. Four-door sticker price $37.56. Two-door $36.98, excluding taxes, title, delivery, and dealer prep. Granada, an important new design. See it at your local Ford dealers September 27th.
I'll admit it, I've got a few pounds of extra weight, and it can be just like carrying around a ball and chain. Who needs it? So, I'm exercising and eating smart at every meal, starting with the Special K breakfast. It gives me protein plus vitamins and iron, all for less than 240 calories. That's right, a whole breakfast for less than 240 calories, and it's delicious. The Special K breakfast, it'll help me get rid of this darling little ankle bracelet.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this has been the CBS Evening News, with Roger Mudd substituting for Walter Cronkite. The first week of the NFL season brought some surprising results. Will the form prevail this Sunday, or will it be a day of upsets? Be here for the action on CBS.
WLAC-TV, Nashville.
Good evening, I'm Chris Clark, and in the news tonight,